In January 2023, one of Washington's most respected think tanks ran a war game. China invades Taiwan, and America fights back. In almost every run of that war, the United States ran out of its most important long-range missiles in less than 1 week. Not because they were shot down, because there was nothing left to fire. You're watching BBTV Intelligence Briefing. Today's question: how does the most powerful military on Earth run out of ammunition? And why can't its factories simply make more? So here's the state of the arsenal right now. When Russia invaded Ukraine, the United States was producing about 14,155mm artillery shells a month. Ukraine, at the height of the fighting, was firing that many in less than a week. At the peak, Russian guns were firing several times more than that every single day. Washington emptied its own stockpiles to keep Kyiv shooting, including, by some estimates, a third of America's entire Javelin inventory in the first year. And a Javelin takes about 2 years to build from order to delivery. The stockpile drains in months and refills in years. Then it tried to surge production, and it hit a wall. The Army set a target of 100,000 shells a month, a 7-fold increase. Years later, it's still climbing toward that number because you can't just flip a switch on an ammunition plant. A single shell needs forged steel, explosives, fuses, and propellant, 4 separate supply chains, and every one of them has to work. The Stinger missile tells the same story in miniature. When the Pentagon ordered new Stingers in 2023, it was the first major order in roughly 20 years. The production line had gone cold. Some components weren't made anymore. The manufacturer had to bring engineers out of retirement to teach workers how to build it again. That knowledge gap is now the hardest part of rearming. Machines can be bought, muscle memory can't. This is not a story about one missile. It's the whole magazine. How did the arsenal of democracy end up here? Go back to the week the Cold War's checkbook closed. In 1993, the Pentagon summoned defense executives to a dinner now known as the Last Supper. The message: the budgets are collapsing, merge or die. 51 major contractors consolidated into 5. Ammunition plants built for World War II and the Cold War were closed, mothballed, or sold. The plants that survived became national treasures nobody noticed, kept alive on minimum orders, one budget line from closure. America stopped making TNT on its own soil in 1986. For decades, the explosive inside American shells has been imported, much of it from a single plant in Poland. Think about that. The world's largest military imports the explosive in its own artillery shells. None of this was crazy at the time. The Cold War was over, the wars America expected were short, and just-in-time efficiency was the religion of the age. Precision weapons deepened the logic. Why stockpile 1 million dumb shells when one smart missile does the job? And precision worked, until the wars got long and the targets got cheap. So the magazines got shallower, the suppliers got fewer, and the assumption got quieter. Any war we fight will be over before the warehouse matters. Ukraine broke that assumption in about 90 days. Here's what most coverage misses. This isn't a money problem. Congress can approve billions overnight. It's a factories and people problem, and neither can be bought back quickly. Deterrence isn't just about what you can destroy on day 1. It's about what your enemy thinks you can still be firing on day 90. Adversaries don't count your aircraft carriers. They count your magazines. In a Pacific fight, the target list runs to thousands of aim points, and every one of them needs multiple weapons assigned. And the math has already turned ugly in the Red Sea. American destroyers have been shooting down $50,000 drones with missiles that cost $2 million each. The Navy has burned through more air defense missiles there than in the previous 3 decades combined. Every intercept is a win for the defense and a loss for the arsenal. China, meanwhile, has been running its industrial base in the opposite direction. By most Western estimates, it can produce key categories of munitions several times faster than the United States. Its shipyards alone outbuild America's by a margin measured in the hundreds. Allies are in worse shape. European stockpiles were measured in days, not months, when Ukraine began. And when Europe went shopping to restock, it found everyone else already in the queue. Which leaves one uncomfortable question sitting under every Pacific war plan. Not whether America's weapons are good enough, but whether there are enough of them. This is where it gets interesting. The part that connects one steel plant, one chemical, and a one-week war. Technology. A modern missile isn't one product. It's a pyramid of single points of failure. Virtually every American solid rocket motor comes from just 2 suppliers, and for some missiles, only 1. When one motor supplier hit quality problems, deliveries of an entire missile family slipped by months. The steel bodies of America's artillery shells come overwhelmingly from one plant in Scranton, Pennsylvania, running machinery older than most of its workers. One fire, one flood, one strike, and the numbers stop. Economics. The explosive filler is its own choke point. The United States is only now building its first new TNT plant since the 1980s. People, energetics chemists, and munitions engineers spent 30 years being told their industry was dying. They left, and they took the knowledge with them. In some critical munitions trades, the average age is now north of 50. You can appropriate money in a night. You cannot appropriate a workforce. Intelligence. None of this is classified. Adversary planners can read production rates in public budget documents and shape their timelines around them. Build rates are read in Beijing the way missile tests are read in Washington, as signals. And here's the connection to our last briefing. Every one of those missiles is stuffed with the same chips that come from one island off China's coast. The magazine problem and the chip problem are the same problem wearing different uniforms. One layer deeper, it stops being about weapons at all. It becomes a bet about time. So what happens next? For the first time, the Pentagon is signing multi-year ammunition contracts, giving factories a reason to invest beyond next year's budget. New plants are rising in Texas, Kentucky, and across Europe. But a shell plant takes 3 to 5 years to reach full rate. Europe's biggest ammunition maker has gone from quiet supplier to one of the fastest-growing industrial companies on the continent. The 155mm surge shows what's possible and how slow fast really is. Production is up several-fold since the war began, and still short of what one medium-sized war consumes. Watch 3 signals: whether the new TNT plant opens on schedule, whether rocket motor production gets a real second source, and how deep the Pacific missile magazines actually get. Because the lesson of every long war since 1914 is the same. Wars begin with the army you have. They're won with the industry you kept. An industry, once sold off, takes a decade to buy back. The next war won't be decided by who has the best weapons. It will be decided by who can still resupply them in month 3. That gap is the real story. This has been BBTV Intelligence Briefing. Stay sharp.